Hello and welcome, Anne Wang Reed, to our Viva Valet YouTube channel, and happy International Women's Day. Welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm so glad that you're here. And you are like us. You're like me and Miriam in that you are also an adult child who is caring for your aging parent who is aging in place. And you have children as well.
hmm
So you are what we call a woman of the sandwich generation. And on International Women's Day, we're really wanting to talk to you and understand your perspective of what that's like, and help our viewers understand really they're not alone and that you have that same experience that I'm going through, that you're going through, et cetera. So can you start with introducing yourself for our viewers, please?
Sure thing. Hi there, I'm Anne Wang Reed. I am a full-time working mother, as you've mentioned, of two young children. And I also have an 83-year-old mother who's living in her own home and managing the needs on both ends of the age spectrum all times.
At all times.
Yeah.
So she's plugged in, she's a professional woman. She's got an important job. She's holding back, but she's got a really cool job that we're very cool. We love. Again, both sides of the life cycle you are responsible for right now. Could you, just to give some color, could you let us know a little bit what that life is like? What are maybe some of the stresses that you have, some of the hopes and fears you have for your mother who's aging in place?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm absolutely thrilled that my mom embraces her independence and she's living life in the way that she wants and at the pace that she wants and has no other agenda besides her own. And she tells me all the time, I get to do what I want to do and I'm all for it. And here to standing by to help support her when and if she needs help. But largely she's on her own. While it's great, and I am thrilled to see her living comfortably and independently in her home, which is my childhood house. And the reality is, though, it's a lot for her to maintain. It's a lot of work. And however, she still enjoys it and she takes great pride in it. So I look forward and hope to see her continuing to enjoy that freedom and to be able to continue to enjoy the life that she's built there for many more years. She's physically active and she walks daily. She tends to her garden and dozens of fruit trees and flowers. And she also works diligently in her flexibility exercises. So she can still drop into a squat down low and get up off the floor without having to hold on to anything, which are truly, amazing at that age, especially. And she still got it. And I think what's more important, though, is that that level of mobility and balance and focus is still incredibly reassuring for adult children like myself and my brother.
I mean, that's a level of flexibility and strength that many of us as adult children don't have ourselves. So that's
Exactly.
quite inspirational that she's able to maintain that level of physical mobility and strength. So that's fantastic. So it sounds like she's living her best life, and how wonderful that you have that together. What are some of the stresses that you have in that relationship between you and your mom as she is, progressing through her beautiful life?
Yeah, and while it's wonderful to see that, it's not without the persistent worries that are constantly in my mind, right? About the fragility of life and how things can unpredictably change, right, on a moment's notice. And it doesn't matter how well you prepare or try to prevent that, life happens, shift happens, right? And I try not to worry my present self too much about the things I can't control and that my future self will inevitably have to deal with, right? And trying to strike that balance, but trying to stay present and just focusing on what we have now and where we are at. And also recognizing that that's evolving constantly, right? It's a dynamic state, and being able to recognize and accept that. Sometimes it's easier depending on what's happening. Sometimes it can be much more jarring, right? And not only for me, but also for her, and for us to be able to acknowledge it and talk about it together. We may not always be at the same place and ready to do that. So it's a constant process and exercise, and also continuously challenging, but also strengthening our relationship and our communication as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Some of the stresses I see, and are there fears that you find that kind of things that wake you up in the middle of the night where you say, I need to work on this, I need to manage this with your mom?
Absolutely. I mean, in addition to the obvious things like physical safety or emotional, mental well-being, the reality is aging is incredibly challenging, and you've got social connections that are continuously decreasing, right? With the loss of friends, their partners, or worse, seeing the slow decline of somebody you love and you've known for a long time, or maybe just met. Regardless, it's difficult to see and stand by and have limited ability to help, right? And that's what I see in my mom as she sees this with her friends and her peer group and such. And I think that assuredly happens faster than you wish, you know, especially during this stage of life. And that's especially concerning for the adult child, right? You don't want to see them go through any sort of pain or loss, but then to see it happen repeatedly is difficult to bear. But, you know, it is this season of life. And how do we find acceptance with that, but also still focus on the positives, right? And I always remind her, you still have your health. I hope that this helps to encourage you to make the most of it, right? And to really embrace and continue to live your best life and whatever that means for you. And that definition may continue to change too, especially after the pandemic, and as she herself also sees differences in her own ability and her confidence, continuing to scale that and being okay with that. But,
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
but I said, I was about to say that the things that do keep me up at night, of course, are also all the things that have yet to be done, right? And again, trying not to worry about the future too much, but I can't help but to see, all right, well, I know I need to take care of these things. I know I need to anticipate these things. And that anticipation can be overwhelming at times.
Susie Giovanna is our advising gerontologist at Viva Valet, and she has, the 5 conversations that we're supposed to have with our adult children, our elderly parents who are aging in place, and things like, do we have an advance directive in place? Do we have end of life discussions? Do we have a conversation around driving? Do we have a conversation just around what was it like for you to raise this family? Like the understanding the history that they and the wisdom that they've brought, and also just have the conversation of the love. It sounds to me like you have a lot of those conversations with your mom about the love and appreciation that you have. So that's really inspiring to hear from you. So it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Another question I wanted to ask is, given all the perspective you shared about how it's going, the experience of caring for her, caring for your mother, helping her live that autonomous life that she wants to live, what's the one, maybe 2 pieces of advice that you would give other women in your situation who are caring for an adult, a parent who is aging in place? What's the advice that you would give them to help them work through their own stresses, fears, and help to expand their hopes for that relationship with their mother or father who's aging in place?
I think the first point is one that I already touched on, and it's just about being present and not letting all the what ifs or the potential worries cloud or weigh you down, right? And to be able to be focused on what their needs are, what they're actually asking for, and supporting that, right? Versus getting too far ahead of oneself. And I think the second point I would make to build on that is to also remember that what you may want in their best interest and in terms of advocating for them or looking out for them may not be what they want. And it is incredibly challenging to wrestle with the fact that you have nothing but their best interest in mind, but they have to value that as well. at that point in time and be ready to take action on it. So you can't, even though they may hear what you're saying, if they're not ready, you need to work at their pace and be patient and go with that as your lead.
That's beautiful. So see them where they are, and or understand that they have a different view and a different perspective on the life that they'd like to have than maybe you have. We're hearing that consistently from our seniors who are aging in place, which is they don't want to disturb us. They don't want to. They don't want to be a burden, and they do need help. And so it's wonderful to hear how you and your mother have sorted that out along the path. So again, and I will say to you, happy International Women's Day. Thank you for sharing your perspective of being a woman who is caring for your mother who's aging in place, and while you're caring for your own children. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on the Viva Ballet YouTube channel.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye.